In this tutorial I want to show you how to make an easy planet, simple and fast, using only tools you find in Photoshop, no images. I'm going to do this using just a simple image, in this case 500 by 500 pixels with a white default background. I'm going to hit D immediately to make sure my foreground and background are set to black and white, and I'm going to go over and get the ellipse tool, which is U on the shortcut. I'm going to make sure that it is set to the ellipse tool. I'm going to start up in the top left hand corner, hold down on Shift and click and drag out a shape layer. Now before you do this, make sure that in your settings you have shape layers selected in the ellipse tool, and it is not paths or fill pixels but shape layers only. Top left corner, Shift, click and drag, and you'll get a perfect circle so long as you're holding Shift. And I'm going to let go, and I have my shape layer. Right now this is just a black circle, but this is going to be the base for our planet. Now I really don't want just flat black for my planet, so I'm going to double click on that shape layer and I'm going to choose maybe a dark blue. I also want my background to look more like space, so instead of the default white I'm going to fill it with black, which you can do if your default foreground and background are set to black and white by hitting Alt backspace on your keyboard, or you can go up to Edit, Fill, and select black from there as well. So now with this shape layer created, I'm going to start building my planet. I'm going to put it wherever I want on the screen, and I'm going to add above it, just to begin with, a gradient layer. So I'm going to go up to this adjustment layer, hit gradient. I'm using a linear right now. I'm going to set my angle to the light side on the right, the shadow on the left, which is 0% under the angle in this case, and I'm going to scale it up a little bit and see how that looks. Now what I'm doing is just adding a little bit of shading and dimension to it. Hit OK. I've got a little shadow going on the left. Now I want more than that, so what I'm going to do is add some more. But before I do that, I'm going to start stacking layers using clipping paths. You can do this if you've got a layer above another layer by simply hitting Control Alt G. You'll notice the little arrow that appears there linking it down here. That will contain all the graphics in that layer to the shape it is linked to. In this case it'll all be inside the planet shape. I'm going to add a blank new layer on top of that, also hitting Control Alt G, making it clipped. I'm going to go down here to my shape layer, and holding the Control key I'm going to click on it, and it will cause that to form a selection based on the shape layer that I have there. Up on my new blank layer, I'm going to backspace, Alt again, and fill with black. You can also go up to Edit, Fill with black, and I now have filled my planet with black. It will disappear, that's okay, we're going to bring it back. Hit Control D to deselect. Using your Move tool, which is V on the shortcut, you can pull it to the left a little bit and you'll see the ellipse sort of feel the crescent look that it's giving it here. Now it's a little harsh in this case. I want to soften it up. I'm going to do that using a blur. So Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur in this case. I'm going to set my Gaussian Blur to about 22. Hit OK. And I'm going to back the opacity off just a bit. You can always bring it up later if you want. Right now I just want it to have a dimensional feel. Now on top of this I'm going to set a pattern so that we have some texture to our planet. So down here under adjustment layers I'm going to go up to pattern. Photoshop has a lot of default patterns. I'm in this case loading the grayscale paper patterns, and I'm going to choose a fiber pattern right here. I'm going to raise the scale up a little bit so that the repetition of the pattern is not as noticeable. Hit OK. I'm going to again Control Alt G to clip that to only show on our shape layer, and I'm going to move that layer's adjustment type to overlay. So now I have that pattern overlaid on my planet. If at any time I don't like the size of my pattern, I can always go back and readjust that, but no problem. Slide it up, slide it down. It is totally independent of the rest of the layers and can be adjusted itself. Now I want to add a little pop to my planet with some light around the edges. I'm going to go back down to the shape layer, hold Control, click for my selection, create a new layer above all the rest of them. In this case though, I don't want to fill the planet shape, I want to fill everything but. So I'm going to need to hit Control Shift I. This will invert my selection. You can do this several different ways. You can go to Select, Inverse. Control Shift I is just a little bit faster. And now rather than filling with black, I want to fill with white. In this case, because white is my background color, I can hit Control Backspace to do that. You can always go up into your Edit Fill options to do that as well. Hit Control D to deselect it. I'm going to clip it like all the rest of my layers. Control Alt G. And I'm going to move it just slightly to the left. Now as I do that, you'll see again I'm getting the crescent shape, only this time it's light instead of shadow. And I'm going to need to blur this, soften it up as well. So I'm going to go to Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'm just going to make it to where we've got a little bit of light on our far left side, but not much. Most of it's concentrated on the right. Hit OK. And then I'm going to change the layers setting to overlay. Now as I turn this on and off, you'll notice I get a little bit of a brighter effect because of that. Kind of gives it a little pop. You can move any of these around at any time if you want more or less shadow, and you can adjust it. One more thing I'd like to put on it before I'm done is some lighting effects. So I'm going to create one more layer over the top, blank layer. I'm going to fill it with black, Alt Backspace, and I'm going to use a popular Photoshop filter for lighting, which is Render Lens Flare. Under the lens flare, I'm going to select 105 prime. I'm going to make the size about 74%. Hit OK, and you'll notice it renders out this lens flare on black. I can set this layer to screen, which will show only the light of the layer, and I can move it anywhere I want. Now I'm going to adjust it just slightly by hitting Control T, which brings up my transform tool, and I'm going to rotate it around so that I can set it on the light side of my planet. Put it right there on the edge. Now I want just a little more corona here on the light, so I'm going to do an additional layer above the background, below my shape layer. It's important that this one is below the planet layer. Just create new layer. In this case, I'm going to get a brush using B as a shortcut tool, or right here on your menu. Once you have the brush selected, you can hold down Alt and get your color picker option. I'm going to do that and just pull a very, very light blue from the edge of my planet here, such as this. And I'm going to have a round brush with 0% hardness. In this case, my size is 200 pixels. And I'm just going to click and insert a little bit of flare.